This year, South Africa celebrates the 25th anniversary of its hard-won democracy. We have just voted in the 6th election after the abolition of apartheid. We treasure our universal franchise and we jealously guard our constitution. Freedom of speech is enshrined in the Constitution, as are the values of human dignity, non-discrimination, and the supremacy of the rule of law. For many years, we were hailed as the Rainbow Nation. It appeared that we had achieved the impossible, a peaceful political transition. But the centre did not hold. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the centre cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Yeats's poem had been quoted so frequently and famously by South African leaders and politicians, and so regularly alluded to in articles and literature, that it had become something of a cliché. But the nature of a cliché is that it holds a certain truth, and that it is so commonplace as to lose its impact. Venality, corruption, and gangsterism had likewise become so pervasive in our state and beloved country that it had become normal and we had become inured to it. The abhorrent had again lost its impact. Our democracy was under threat. Human rights and freedom of speech were at risk. The rule of law was actively and successfully being undermined, and the state organs that were supposed to uphold and support these values were methodically and aggressively being destroyed by the highest power in the country. This period of destruction is referred to in our media as the lost years. We were again staring down an abyss, but lost years did not equate to lost hope. We knew when we decided to publish The President's Keepers that we were taking an enormous risk. The main subject of our book held the highest power in the country. We had to edit, typeset, print and distribute the book in the utmost secrecy to ensure that we would not be prevented from doing so before the stock was in the shops. We codenamed it the Peacock's Keepers. There at least was some humour in that, since our author's surname means peacock. We signed embargo agreements with the printers and booksellers and worked closely with the biggest national newspaper to ensure that once the books had been unpacked in the bookshops at midnight on Saturday, 28 October 2017, the newspapers with front-page coverage would hit the streets in the early hours of Sunday, 29 October. The public reaction and demand for the book exceeded all our expectations. Our full first print run was sold out in a day. We enlisted multiple printers attempting to keep up with the demand. All the while, we received summons from various state agencies threatening legal action. Our first book launch was disrupted with what was evidently a planned power outage. Our author's telephone was being tapped, he received death threats and was threatened with arrest. We arranged around-the-clock protection for him and improved the security at our launches while we toured the country and continued to engage with the media and the public. It was when our parliamentarians and vice president at the time, now elected president, walked into Parliament holding copies of the book in their hands that we realized that this book had a chance of making a real difference. While even now we continue to face legal action, it has all been worth it. I dedicate this prize to our fellow publishers, our supportive booksellers, and the excellent investigative journalists that continue to expose and fight the rot, even when they are at risk physically and otherwise. They know what we stand to lose. I honour my colleagues, our author, and his sources for their courage. They inspire me every day and bring joy to our workplace, despite the challenges that we face. But while ubiquitous corruption and widespread gangsterism, state capture, are obvious, sensational and newsworthy threats to the freedoms of our young democracy, there is another imminent threat. The Copyright Amendment Bill that is currently on our President's desk for signature into law is a bill that has been hijacked for populist political expediency and is so destructive as to threaten the survival of our local book publishing industry, the livelihood of our authors, and ultimately also our freedom of speech. We are working relentlessly to stop the bill from being signed into law. I thank the Association of American Publishers for selecting NB Publishers as the 2019 honoree of the AAP Freedom to Publish Jeri Laber Award for the publication of The President's Keepers by Jacques Pauw. We are truly humbled to be regarded worthy of this award and to be joining the ranks of past honorees from countries as diverse as China, Iran, Bangladesh, Turkey, and Egypt. The award gives credence not only to our efforts, but to those of the South African publishing industry as a whole, in helping to shape the political landscape by publishing books challenging the status quo. The African philosophy of Ubuntu says, "We are because you are." Thank you from the southern tip of Africa and from the bottom of our hearts.